kicking ass, and uh-oh. Dang, Tavera Dreadnought, what? Uh-oh. Run. Gotta get away. Eat my thrusts. I'm still alive. How about that? Hello, space friends. As seen in The Mandalorian, in Empyrion Galactic Survival, someone has made a pretty accurate Arquitens light cruiser. A guy by the name of Havoc. So this is actually a fan creation that can be obtained on the Steam Workshop. And as you can see from the exterior view here, he's done a pretty good job. We have various weapons on the top side, like these rocket launchers. Those are pretty good for taking out smaller vessels. He's even got the name there, and it's pretty accurate, as many designs can be. Pretty accurate replicas of real sci-fi ships that people make on Empyrion Galactic Survival, and then you can put them in your game. One issue there is the radar or ping detector is kind of on the outside. It's exposed there. I'll cover that later. But on the top there's mostly lasers and energy weapons. There's some plasma turrets there. And here is a bridge, which we will go into in a minute. But right now, let's talk about the scale. It's really hard to get a ship to match the scale of the lore. So in Wikipedia, the Arquitens is 230 meters long. This fan creation is 214 meters long. So that's pretty close, considering that this is also a pretty cool replica. Of course, no replica is 100% perfect, but this one is pretty cool. Now, one issue you might have is trying to figure out how to get on the thing. Well, there is a boarding ramp next to the hangar bay opening. If you point your multi-tool at it, you can find it, and you can activate it. Some signage there would have been helpful. But then you get up into the hangar bay, where TIE fighters should live, and there are switches to open and closes the ramps in here. Now, the hangar bay on this ship is substantial. Indeed, it seems like the ship is built around the hangar bay as its central feature. In the hangar bay, we've got repair stations, an armor locker, pretty much most of the utilitarian things you would need to embark. There's a slot for a TIE fighter there. Over here on this corner, more of the same as far as repair and armor locker. Various support rooms, and here is an advanced constructor down here in the hangar bay, which is used to manufacture almost everything you would need in Empyrion, and another one. And you can see this sort of moon pool in the middle. It is protected by lots of caution signs and stuff to keep you from falling in there. But the real question is, can a TIE fighter actually dock in here? Well, I grabbed another blueprint, a TIE fighter also by Havoc, and with a little bit of finagling I can get it up through this lower opening, and with some careful maneuvering I can get it into one of these slots. I'll note that the entry to the hangar bay is from the bottom, whereas in lore it's from the front. However, I think entry from the bottom is a lot more practical and efficient for the hangar bay. And it will lock down. You'll also notice there's some catwalks that go directly to where the cockpit should be, which is very clever design, and you can see it out here from this corridor. There's an enormous corridor that wraps around the hangar bay, very true to Star Wars spaceship design, with various rooms like this hydroponics bay here. The sick bay, which isn't quite emergency easy access, but it is there near the hangar bay. Note the windows that look out into the hangar bay. And of course, an extensive restroom with showers and toilets and a sink. Very essential for most human life. And as you can see, the engineering section is actually just forward of the main hangar, and it's vast. It contains the large generators and a few other vital systems. I wanted to show you the crew quarters, mainly because there's some very hilarious things written on some of the LCDs in the various crew quarter spaces. Now, the bridge, although cool, is not my favorite bridge as far as Empyrion ships go. These windows have a commanding view of the ship. However, in the initial design, they were dark because they were flipped wrong as far as the transparency. Kind of like that with the multi-tool. You can flip that back around to be more transparent. This seems like the logical place for your driver's seat, although there's an NPC crew member there, which doesn't normally spawn in with the blueprint, so you can just get rid of him. This is actually where you pilot the ship from. This seems to be designed for the vanilla version of Empyrion Galactic Survival. I gave it a quick look in the popular Reforged Eden mod and wasn't really functional there. I did find that the ship handles and maneuvers just fine as I finally set out to find a worthy opponent and see what this hunk of junk can do. So as you can see, I started big and I found a Tovera class dreadnought, which is about the biggest, baddest battleship you can find in this game. Initial attack from behind, no big deal. Shields are pretty much holding, although starting to go down. The question is, could I keep this attack up and maybe recharge the shields? But as I drift in front of it, oof, my goodness. Shields collapse. Not ready to test armor tank yet. I decide I'd better go ahead and withdraw. And I do withdraw without much of a problem. Surviving, no problem there. Need to find another target though. And then I found a little old Xerax freighter tug, and that's like almost the opposite of what I had just engaged in the Tovera. No problem there, the thing wasn't even shielded. So confident I get up out of my seat to take a look out the window up here, which is, unfortunately is still semi-transparent, but I have a look anyway at the lasers going to town on that thing. And then they suddenly stop firing, as they were set to take out generators. So as I find, the freighter is completely disabled, almost too easy. And then I found a much more worthy opponent, a Imperial class frigate, almost the same size as my ship, maybe a little smaller. Had no problem knocking its shields down and taking out its thrusters. Eventually I'll take out its generators. But I decided to test the armor and hull tank of my ship by letting my shields go down. I mean, it still had sufficient weapons to take my own shields down, so I just let it happen. I figure it's an Imperial starship, it should have lots of armor tank, right? And then, oh no! Armor tank? Really? No! Oh, look at that. Look at that damage. I back up with reverse thrusters, which are strong. And oof, that hurt. Even my pinger was taken out. So I decided to set down on a nearby jungle moon to do a external damage assessment. And maybe there was something wrong with the materials. Maybe they aren't hardened steel or titanium variants of any kind. And oof, that entire starboard mandible was taken out. That's where my spinal mounted rocket launchers were. And yes, look, these blocks are mostly steel. And also the pinger was taken out. Very inconvenient. So I replaced the pinger and put it in a much more secure location, not just outside the hull. And I decided to go round 2 with the Imperial, setting my turrets to take out generators. I believe if I just watch my shields and maybe break off if it gets to be too bad, I could take this thing out via the generators. And I do have no problems re-engaging with this thing. However, if you take a look to the left there, there's a little green blob approaching. That's going to be a problem. So again, no problem working on the Imperial class frigate, but there's a Camerat class battle cruiser closing, or battle carrier closing in, and it opens fire. That thing also can spew out laser drones. So the Camerat class battle carrier seems like a pretty good match for me. I figure why not go ahead and go after that. The Imperial was, pretty much disabled, I believe. So the only issue is that there is another Tovera class dreadnought hanging around out here somewhere, off to my aft, and I'm pinging to make sure it doesn't get too close, and I'm taking the long way around to approach this battle carrier. So far I'm pretty confident in taking out the battle carrier. If the shields do go down, I can withdraw, let them recharge. They recharge a little bit slow, but they do recharge. Come back at the battle carrier and take out its engines and generators. I like to take out engines because it allows me to position myself to where I think the worst of the turrets are not going to hit me. And those little exclamation marks down there are Xerax laser drones. They're sort of the equivalent to fighters, and I should have no problem dealing with that. Indeed, it seems this battle carrier doesn't really have much in the way of turrets, but it does spew out those laser drones, which don't do a lot of damage either. And as you can see, it looks like I'm taking down the shields of that thing rather efficiently, but oh my goodness, to the left we have the Tovera class dreadnought zeroing in on our position. This is inconvenient and this messes up our test a little bit. Had it not been for that, I think we would have a good battle here. We could probably almost certainly disable that battle carrier unless it is like hull tanked in some way. And the dreadnought is opening up fire and going to town on us. It is time to withdraw. At least the nice thing about this ship is it is pretty maneuverable in spite of its weird shape. I'm not sure where a lot of the reverse thrusters are, but it can get away. It can get away from a problem if things go sour. Perhaps if it had some sort of titanium hull plating on it somewhere, some thin blocks, it would be a little better. So overall, I think this is a pretty good ship. I do recommend it for vanilla. The hangar base seems only suited for taking on TIE fighters, and it really seems to not be made to land on a planet due to the way the bay is shaped. You can't really get ground vehicles up in there. So for that, you're going to have to work out some other solution, or maybe add a ramp to that opening down there, or something like that. Well, space friends, I hope this holds you over for a week or so while I work on my next CG battle breakdown. If you subscribe, you'll hear about it with previews or possibly even some shorts. I am also working on a new motion picture refit Constitution class Enterprise, and I'm going to do so many types of videos with that thing once it's done. Now I am now attempting to do this full time, so YouTube is hit and go as far as ad revenue. I'm trying to get some other foundations opened up. I have put my models on Patreon, and a lot of models are free for $5 and up patrons. And also, if you don't like Patreon, you can support the channel through my CG Trader and buy one of those models there. Meanwhile, feel free to comment on whether you think this was an interesting take on the Arquitens class cruiser. Until next time, space friends,